like honestly a year ago. Let's see, right when I graduated college, I was dead set on heading to the Bay Area. I really wanted to work in tech, and I wanted to live that tech life, get the free food, the free matcha lattes, all that stuff. And I had kind of just high hopes going into the design industry, the creative industry there, within the tech realm. So let's see, when I first moved to the Bay Area, it took me a little bit of time to find a job. I was really, really fortunate to have family up there that I could live with, couch surf with as I was looking for a job. The first time I started, or the first job I landed, was a small web agency out of Walnut Creek. I worked mostly doing web design assets, iconography, kind of some of the stuff that you were sharing, Macy, with the Curology, just visual assets for clients' websites. I ended up working there for almost a year and landed a really cool temp job working at Google. So I was definitely quick to leave the agency world and go over to Google. My work at Google primarily consisted of more so marketing work. So the first job that I went into was more of a marketing operations role, but I was quick to take it just because I really wanted all that free stuff, all the free food. As I got there, I worked really hard. I networked my butt off, and I essentially just tried to take any open projects or anyone that needed support or help at Google. I was like, let me help you out with this. And I actually started working on some more startup focused projects at Google. So Google is a massive company, as you all know, and they do a lot of work in the startup world, supporting startups, giving out free credits for Google Cloud, to get advertised on Google Play as like the Google Indie Corner. Those types of programs are what I was focusing on in my first half of working at Google. And as I mentioned, I kind of I moved a little bit away from design work and moved into more of a marketing role, which essentially landed me in my job now. I work currently at Snapchat. I'm a content marketer, and that's kind of like a vague term for, it's funny, me and my colleagues joke, everything is content, if you think about it, especially in like a digital world. So what I work on, and again, I work at Snapchat, but I work on the for business side. So Snapchat for Business is where advertisers go to launch ads on Snapchat and try to get your dollars. Curology is one of our clients. You'll see brands like Away or, Pandora, bigger brands like Frito-Lay's launch ads on Snapchat, et cetera, et cetera. So what I do there is I design and create content for our small, medium business advertisers to help get them like advertising on Snapchat and help them use our self-service tools. So a lot of these small, medium business advertisers don't really have the big ad dollar spend to get their own dedicated teams to help them create these campaigns. So what we do on my team is produce content from educational materials to webinars to PDFs, one-pagers. And then, of course, we are constantly working on our website. If you ever work on a website project at a company, you'll know that that work never really ends. And so that's my job currently. And I would say as a content marketer, something that I really, really value is my education in design. I'm able to go and create, we use primarily Figma, but I still use Illustrator from time to time, but I'm able to jump in and instead of putting in a big work request with the design team to get 1 or 2 icons made, I can usually jump in and make them myself, draft up any sort of like wireframe for a new landing page design myself. And yeah, I more so manage that direction. So if there is a larger design project that I get to work on, I'm more so filling out the brief and I'm more so the client, which is really fun because that means I get to do less work in the design and I get to boss people around. But that's typically not the case. I usually am a decent client to work with. But lastly, I think another thing that led me to get to land in this position is that during my time at Google, I did a lot of copywriting, and I wrote a lot of marketing materials, whether it was for emails or some of the major conferences we were putting on. I was able to help out and kind of use our brand guidelines to produce some of those items. And I just really honed in my copywriting skills. And so I think that's really what helped land my job at Snapchat for Business. Is I wrote a number of case studies, a number of blog posts simultaneously, like while I was doing my other marketing and design related jobs. I was able to kind of get ahead in that sense. So that's where I am now. I love working at Snapchat. It's a great company. If you're interested in working at tech, Snapchat for Business is definitely hiring. We're doing pretty well from a business side, and we're fortunately positioned to do really well during this time, especially with everyone at home and kind of on their phones and constantly scrolling. And yeah, I think that's it. I think. Let me see, I have the prompt open right here. If I had any advice for you guys, one thing that I think really helped me with my career path is that I was just really ready and willing to kind of just do any job. Anyone that I worked with at Google, I was like, hey, what can I do to help you out? I certainly worked with a ton of not nice people. Trust me, there's not nice people in every organization at any company, but it's kind of just about putting your head down, pushing through, taking up projects when you can. I know I've kind of gone off the designer path, but I still get to practice and kind of flex that muscle when I can. And right now I currently am working on a couple freelance design projects. So I get to do, we have a really good work-life policy at Snapchat. I'm really fortunate to have a good company that's not like super pressing and trying to get produced so much. But I get to work on a number of freelance projects on my own, and they're half freelance projects and half personal projects. I'm currently making my dad a brand design, an ironwood branding design for his Christmas gift. So yeah, I get to flex that muscle when I can at work. I get to boss people around, designers around when I can. And really, like, design for me nowadays is it's half of my work, but it's also a lot of like therapeutic work that I do at home. Like for myself, it's just creative energy flowing out. So yeah, I think for this is a class of juniors and seniors, or all seniors?
A mix, juniors
A
and
mix.
yeah.
Yeah. I know going into the job market right now is weird. I'm sure you're all scared and kind of anxious about like what's going to happen. I think if you're fortunate enough to, take some time, as you're as you're graduating and you're evolving from the college phase to the next phase, take some time to think about where you want to live, what kind of lifestyle you want to have. I was so dead set on getting in the Bay Area, and I actually live down in Los Angeles now, so I'm super fortunate. And I love being in LA versus the Bay Area. But
Yeah. So when we left, when you were doing portfolio, you were like, I'm leaving. I'm going to go work for Williams and Sonoma. And,
yeah,
yeah, and you were very, yeah, definitely.
I was dead set on getting down there or up there, I guess. And I love my experience in the Bay Area. You meet a lot of people. There's a lot of great creative agencies in the Bay Area. There's one that I really like, Camp and King, and they work out of the Presidio. They were one of my clients, and actually know someone that works there. That's it. There's a lot of really, really good creative agencies in the Bay Area, but there's a ton of great creative agencies all over the States and even internationally. And I would say my path was mostly determined by, like, I wanted to make more money and I wanted to get good benefits. So that's kind of what led me down more of the marketing side. And not to say that you won't make money or anything design wise, but I kind of took the next step, and that led me to where I'm at. So if you want to do design and you want to be creative, I'd say, like, take your time, figure out where you want to live. If you're fortunate enough to know people in those areas, try to move there and kind of get a feel, or spend some time there and get a feel for what's it like living in those areas. I really didn't like the cold of the Bay Area, hence I'm in LA right now. Take some time to figure out where you want to be and kind of like, and also one other thing is like, don't worry. I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're a designer now, you're a designer now. And I'm like, no, I work more in marketing. And I think I struggled with that for a long time because I love design and I know I'm a good designer and I had a lot of pride about it. But, you know, like your career can kind of take you wherever you want to go. It's all about landing one job and then moving on to the next and thinking about the skills that you're developing during that job and how that can apply to the next one. I think that's kind of what led me down my path right now. I never like woke up when I was 16 and was like, oh, I want to be a content marketer or whatever. But it definitely suits my lifestyle and it suits kind of like what I enjoy doing, bossing people around. But yeah, that's what I would say. And recently I've been here for about a year, but I was actually pretty unhappy at my previous job when I was up in the Bay Area. And it took my job hunt from that job to this job took about, I want to say 6 months. And it was a tough time just from, well, I have 4 years experience. Like, why am I not landing these jobs? And I had a few cases where I was the final candidate and they went with someone else. And, you know, that feedback's really hard to hear. And so is, you know, the automated like email rejection that you get when they're like, oh, sorry, we found other candidates or we're moving on, blah, 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 blah. That was really tough. And I think I dealt with that for 6 months and I'll deal with that again when I'm ready to go to the next job. And the biggest thing is you know, don't let that impact you. Like, you know, when you're looking for jobs, you're not going to get your dream job right off the bat. Hopefully you will, but my mom always told me this, you're not going to get the dream job off the bat. And your next job might be closer, but it's not going to be that exact fit. I think we're all kind of like, you know, you find your North Star and you inch your way towards it. And I think that was like the thing that got me through those 6 months of rejection was just like, you know, well, it didn't work out and, you know, it's going to lead me to my next job. And so, yeah, I would just say that. And once you do land your first job, whether it's at an agency or it is at a big tech company or you work in retail, there's so many verticals that you can go into. I mean, I just know that just based off of the fact that I have to market to a ton of different verticals, but don't let yourself fool yourself into thinking that you didn't deserve that job. I think that's like a really important thing that I wish I told myself 4 years ago was that, you know, you landed a job for a reason. Once you're able to land that job or land that interview, you landed the interview for a reason. They were impressed with your portfolio. They were impressed with your work or your experience and capitalize on that. And I still struggle with imposter syndrome every 4 months or so. I get it into my head that I don't deserve the job, but yeah, I think like that's like my biggest advice for y'all is just job hunts are really, really hard. If you really like the thing with COVID right now and quarantine, I think if you really, really want to work and get right at it, I know a lot of agencies are hiring. Like this is a great time for creative people. There is a requirement for a lot of like web work. And then, you know, in terms of if you're looking to go more into print design, if that's your passion, you know, sometimes it is, you know, like I would say like I get to work on my print projects at home and that's my therapy. And I know that's kind of like a sellout mentality. But like, you know, there is plenty of work out there in the creative field, especially digitally. And yeah, there's a lot of, and look at companies that are positioned well during this time. I think Snapchat is definitely positioned well. Pinterest, I mean, I'm talking like tech and my major competitors, but Pinterest, you know, Facebook, Instagram, and they're all starting to open office outside of these major tech hubs. They're starting to kind of expand into smaller tech hub areas. So Boulder is a great area. If you're looking to work in tech and you want an environment that's similar to Flagstaff. Austin, Texas is somewhere I've considered living. if I ever were to move out of California. Think about that, and like think about, you know, like it doesn't, you don't need to be in New York. Living in New York City or San Francisco is certainly glamorous, and so is Los Angeles, but don't be afraid to apply to jobs kind of outside of those major hubs, I guess, is another piece of advice I'd have. And
So can I
then,
build on kind of what you were
yeah,
talking about? Because I've
absolutely.
been thinking about this a lot because I'm doing senior portfolio next semester. And, you know, a lot of stuff that we did, you know, you printed it out, you came in, I critiqued it. Even for this group, I've been having them do onboarding videos with Adobe Premiere Rush. I've been
Okay.
having them do like even transitioning to more of that video,
Hmm.
Instagram stories kind of thing.
Hmm.
How do you think that's going to play in the future? So I guess what I'm saying is what should a portfolio look like in the future? In the future, what is the portfolio going to look like?
It really it depends on your style, I think, and it depends on kind of like, for me, you know, I think my skill set was always UI UX, and then a little bit of branding or identity work, and that was more so like illustration. Like what I really struggled with my portfolio. I remember senior year was really tough for me, and I had a lot of imposter syndrome then. The future of portfolios, yeah, it's all digital. I wouldn't, I don't know. I think I got really overwhelmed with building my portfolio right in college. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome of like, oh, this was a school project. Like, why would I want to show a major company or like this company that or agency that I'm applying at? Why would I want to show them this fake app that I made up? Um, just don't worry about that. I think the mentality in the industry that I work in is like, if you wait to launch something or publish something too long, like if you wait to perfect it and you try to perfect it, you're going to miss your opportunity, and you're going to miss, like, I think the motto at Google was like, if you launch when you're ready, you launch too late and you're already kind of messing up. So in terms of digital portfolios, like I think some of the best portfolios I've seen, and I pay attention more to illustrators and people who do a little bit of print, like artwork. Like those are the people that I tend to follow on social and on Dribble and LinkedIn and whatnot. They're all really simple, and like, you know, like don't get overwhelmed with building this like robust website, or crazy like beautiful like complex website. Yeah, like just don't get overwhelmed with building a complex website. Like think about your work as its own story, and give that, you know, like think about what the hero image for that story is. Is it that detail shot from the side? If it's print work, if it's, you know, digital work or UI UX work, think about kind of like, what is the hero story for the website that you designed? And I think the future involves a lot of that, like visual, like animated. Like what I do a lot is like, we'll make animated short, you know, like kind of like not sound bits, but some of the videos that we produce that showcase SMB or small medium businesses that we have on our platform that have had success. We created this like whole 10-minute video of like them telling their story and blah 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 blah. We use parts of those videos for our paid ads. And so when you go on LinkedIn and you see Snapchat for business, like advertise to blah 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 blah, there's like a short video of a girl, you know, using a lens AR, and she's kind of doing this. That's like from a longer form video. So like think about when you're setting up your digital portfolios, and I don't know if print portfolios are really even a thing, but when you're setting up digitally, don't get overwhelmed with like creating a crazy website. Use a tool that works for you, and don't get like caught up on the details, and think about showcasing that hero image of whatever piece that you're working on. Because when recruiters are going through these, they're just, I mean, you guys know this with resumes, it's like they're just kind of skimming. And honestly, especially at the big tech companies, your resume is going through an AI like program before it's getting in front of a an actual human. So when you think about your website and your portfolio, know that you have a human's attention. I don't think there's AI that are reviewing portfolios by any chance or by any means, but think about the hero image and think about like what is the best aspect of your design or like your thought process within there. And then another thing that I see with some of my favorite designers is that they really showcase their process work. I know that's a lesson I learned in school is like like showcase the process. I think that's really sexy in a way, like on portfolios when you click in and then you see the hero image on top and then you have a small blurb about like the project or the client and then you scroll through and you actually see the sketches. Take time, and I'm seriously one person that always gets caught up on details, but like take time to snap some cool shots of your sketches and show that, well, in the click in page. So if you're building a website portfolio, you know, your hero image will show, you know, on a grid on your homepage or about our work page. And as you scroll in and you click on one, your hero image should appear up top. Maybe if you have some other images that you really, really love, keep that up there, the final products, and then write your story and or you know, show the story that how you developed that design. Process work is always important, especially if you're going into UI UX design. Someone will definitely like say like, oh, how'd you go through this process? And you can show them like, oh, I started with these wireframes. I didn't like this. I favorited this, like blah, 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 blah. Here, you can click on this link. This kind of shows my creative process in this. Does that answer your question? I know that was like a long answer.
Well, it does. And you mentioned case studies also.
Mhm.
Kind of having them, well, I am having them do that for this last project.
Mhm.
Any advice on case studies, or did you just pick an app, or was it something that you did, or how do you approach a case study?
Well, my case studies, so I've always had if you ever go into marketing and any business related field, you're either B2B, which is business to business. That's what I work on. I try to attract business. So I'm less consumer facing. I have friends at Snapchat that work more on the consumer facing products. So it's kind of a different mentality. But my approach to creating case studies were I found the right people, whether I was at Google, I worked at Google Cloud. So these were the case studies I wrote were not only businesses, but really, really technical businesses. I did not enjoy that. I did not speak the language, but I forced myself to do it and somehow landed this job. So source the right candidate. And by, you know, if you're going to do a case study for your class, you know, like find the right use case, and not only like from a design perspective, but does the business show promising metrics or does it show long-term success? You know, a business that is selling only like toe socks or like only masks, like they might have really beautiful masks and great design, but hopefully if COVID ever ends, I mean, I hope we still have masks if people are ever sick, but you get the drift. Pick a candidate that has metrics to show the value of their business. I think that's really helpful because you can have killer design, but if you don't have like a strong business prop or value prop, like your business is gonna falter. And even like think about businesses that have pivoted. Like think about, I mean, like think about, I think Stitch Fix is a good example of a business that, you know, this was like the beginning of subscription boxes, but the founder, I think she was more interested. I can't remember the origin story, but she had like she was more interested in selling like more e-com style retail and wasn't doing well. I could be screwing up this story. And she pivoted to more of a subscription-based service. And a lot of people told her like, oh, like that's gonna fail. Like, how do you expect to like buy all these products and have people returning and you're paying for shipping? I don't know how Stitch Fix is doing now. Last time I checked, they were doing okay, but pick a bit, like think about businesses that have long-term success. They design really well. They have great design, social, website, like look at social, look at website holistically, look at, you know, any sort of content or YouTube things that they might have on like how-to videos. And then, you know, businesses that have pivoted, like could be a very, very interesting case study because you can talk about how, I mean, even, you know, Snapchat is a good example, not necessarily of pivoting, but of, product development. Like it used to just be this app where people would send pics that disappeared and everyone was like, oh, that's the nudie app. Don't get any ideas. But, and now it's, we have a lot of different aspects of the app. We have the discovery panel, which is like all these shows and content and your friends' stories. We have the Snap Map. That's a whole thing. Maybe, yeah, just think about like the use case of the business. Don't be attracted to just sexy design. Think about long-term success of the business, and do they have the metrics or like kind of like the right to flex,
Well, it's funny because I got an email today and they were talking that Snap had just bought Voca AI,
Okay.
which is automated voice AI something.
Okay.
And so we were just talking again, you're just, how is even Snap looking at pivoting?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're doing really well right now. We make a lot of investments. The company, another bit of advice for seniors is that the reason I chose to work at Snapchat is the company really prioritizes a lot of the values that I align with. And I'm sure many of you do too. Like pick a company that is, don't go to just like this major like company. Not to say Snap is not evil, but I think they do a lot of good work in the field of supporting local communities, diversity, equity, and inclusion, talking about world issues, being tough on people who are bad.
That's funny. When I
Yeah.
got to grad
Yeah.
school,
We invest, Snapchat invests heavily in AR because that's like our main call to, or our main flex right now is like, oh, we have the best, we want to become the world's best camera or most used camera, right? So there's so many AR tools and AR companies that we're buying up, augmented reality or virtual reality focused companies, and a lot of AI. And AI goes into that, right? Because it's facial recognition, it's motion detection, it's like all of that kind of visual thing or industries. When I was in school, AR and VR were like kind of a thing, but we were all like, well, what are you going to do? Put on this stupid Oculus thing and just like walk around? And it's fun to see it kind of evolve over the last few years. Like there's been many startups who have attempted, who have been founded working in AR and gone down because you can't monetize that just yet. They get great investment, they get great, backers, but they run out of runway and then they just have to close up shop, or hopefully they're bought up by a company like Snapchat or Instagram or other visually focused businesses that are trying to expand the world of AR. So yeah, I think like Snapchat's always going to make money doing work in the camera realm. The fun thing about my job is like I can say like, because it's like, how do you monetize? Like, how does Snapchat make money? I don't know. Like they have investments. Like how do they make money? Like that's kind of more my job is like we want to make such a great platform that like businesses are like, oh, 18 to 24-year-olds use Snapchat 30 times a day. We're definitely going to put our ads on there because we sell, cool shoes, or we sell like these like hip outfits for this or that, So did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What else? I think, let me see. I've got the prompt open. Does anyone have like any questions for me?
Yeah, let's open up for a few questions. Please.
It's okay if you don't.
There's almost 30 people in here, so somebody better have a question.
Doesn't have to be about my work. It could be about Los Angeles. But yeah, I think you guys are like, I do, COVID is like a weird freaking environment to be in, and have a lot of sympathy for, or empathy for y'all going into the job field like this. But I do think there's good pockets of opportunity if you just, if you look for those companies that like really position themselves well in this time and know that this isn't long term. Like I mean, hopefully not. Know that like when you are looking for a designer or a design job or a job out of college, like don't take all of the rejections. Don't let that diminish your drive to find a job, because you got to get a job to survive.
Yeah. Can you walk us through kind of your interview process through to Snapchat?
Yeah, definitely. Here I see a few questions. Oh yeah, of course. Arizona, a lot of tech jobs. Let's see. I'm gonna be radically honest right now. I love Flagstaff and I love Sedona. I was actually just there a month ago. I was doing a road trip because I needed a change of scenery. I never wanted to live in Phoenix or Tucson. It was like too hot. I'm very climate sensitive. It was too hot for me. I know there are a good amount of companies down in Phoenix. That's obviously where you're going to find the majority of work, being the city center of the state. In terms of tech, I know there's a few startups out there. Like I know like ag tech is a huge field. I don't know if there's a lot of ag tech in Phoenix.
Well,
There's
we've talked
solar,
to,
like solar is a great industry to get into in terms of like long-term job sustainability.
I saw a
I don't
job
know.
in Yuma. They were looking for a motion designer at
Oh,
some
really?
ag company down there. I was like, Yuma? What? That's crazy.
I would imagine there's more ad companies down there and ad agencies down there than tech. Some of the big techs, Georgia is a great Atlanta, Georgia is a huge tech hub right now. There's a lot of really interesting things going on in Georgia. I'm just like naming off states. Sorry
Well,
if I didn't
it's
answer your
interesting because
Arizona question.
you were part of the group with Adam Sandoval, weren't you?
Adam Sandoval. I don't.
Anyway,
It
he's a
strikes
GoDaddy.
a.
He's a GoDaddy.
Oh yeah, there's GoDaddy. Yeah, and Catherine Gatz worked at
Yeah,
GoDaddy for a
and
while.
we talked to her, and
Oh, cool.
she's at Amazon.
Right. She joined Amazon Web Services right as I was leaving Google Cloud. And I was like,
Right,
have fun in the cloud world.
right.
Um,
It was funny because I ran into her. I was riding the ski lift, and she was
oh,
sitting there talking to her boyfriend or fiance at that point, and I
that's so cool.
recognized her voice, and I said, "Kat?" And she's like, "Yeah," and we both moved our goggles
Yeah.
off. This was
Take the
before
mask off.
COVID. It was before COVID, so.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it's weird in a COVID world when you think you recognize someone and you're like,
Oh
hey.
gosh, yeah, forget about it.
I actually like that about COVID. It's like I have a disguise on, put my sunglasses on, no one knows
Yeah.
if I'm hungover or not. But just kidding. Don't take my lessons on life. Your question was interview. Um, Interviews are tough, and what I would my routine with interviews, and I got into a really good routine with this, is study. Like, don't go in blindly. Know about the company, know the values, but just, this is kind of silly, don't like suck up about it. Don't be like, oh, your mission statement says this and this and this and I align with that. Try to incorporate a company's mission or what they do into how you answer questions. For example, I was interviewing with Forward, which is their startup out of San Francisco, and they're like a fancy dancy healthcare provider alternative. I'm very, very glad I didn't get the job there, but I was interviewing there. And I think the question was like, so what attracted you to this particular job? And it was a video marketing job. And I, kind of went on that spiel. And then, I kind of tied in, my sister is a registered nurse. And I think there's many issues with, the medical industry as a whole, and I think I have a lot of kind of personal insight from her that and I look at this business and I see how it's solving those problems. And I see, and that was a total suck up move, but it was disguised, it was packaged nicely. Think about that, like run through those bullet points in your head, even make up fake things like that in your mind and just run through it. Like, and I know it sounds silly, but like talk to the mirror. I played Sims a lot growing up, and I don't know if you guys ever played Sims or if you're too young for that, but like when you work on your charisma points on Sims, you talk to the mirror. And then my ritual, and you can all steal this because it's helped me a lot. right before I go into an interview, I like, oh my gosh, this is silly, but I literally raise my hands and I'm like, I won the race. Like I mentally walk myself through like winning a race or getting the job. Like I create that excitement in my mind. And I'm a huge believer in like, you know, setting intentions and kind of like, if you manifest something, it will hopefully come your way in one form or another. So prepare, run through these scenarios in your head, even make a bullet point list. And like, and every interview is happening virtually right now, so you can kind of cheat. But make a bullet point list and kind of think about the talking points and how you want to sell and package yourself. I think that's like, that's the best thing. And create a ritual, like whether it's the fist in the air or like giving yourself a high five or like having a drink after, I don't know. Make a ritual and reward yourself, because interviewing is super, super exhausting mentally, physically. Your voice, like, because you're like animated and you're like, I'm so excited about this. Reward yourself afterwards and know that like, regardless of outcome, you gave it, you prepared, you gave it your best, and you had a positive attitude, and you gave your best effort. I think like that's the biggest thing, because trust me, you'll all have a lot of interviews and you'll want to just have one or two in your life, but you're going to have thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds eventually. And they're tough. It's like, it's really tough. So reward yourself and just do a little bit of research and know your audience. I think the scariest interview I had was, I was interviewing for the job that I have now, and they dropped it on me. They were like, "Oh, we want you to talk to Jeff Miller, who's essentially the director of creative strategy and in like business marketing." So that's the team that I work on, and I work a lot with the creative strategy team. And so I was like, "Oh shoot!" And I LinkedIn him. I LinkedIn him or whatever. I stalked him on LinkedIn. And I went on private, like I made sure he didn't see my name or anything. But he had an incredible resume and portfolio, you know, like just, he worked at Gatorade, he was at Nike, you know, like he had all these brands that he had worked for. I was so intimidated going into the meeting, and I like thought I was going to barf. It was like dropped on me. But I guess I did well. And afterwards, like after I got the job, you know, I met him and chatted with him. He's the nicest guy in the world. And I told him, I was like, you freaked me out. Like I interviewed with you and I thought I lost it. Like I thought I lost the job after I interviewed with you. So kind of be like ready and willing to talk to whoever, know your audience, and like don't be like, it's so hard to say, but like don't be like so worried. Like if you don't get the job, it's just an interview. There's going to be plenty more. Just know your audience, I guess.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
What else, you guys?
Is everyone feeling anxious about their portfolio? Has everyone seen The Social Dilemma? Snapchat's not that evil.
You know what? I would actually love to ask about that, because I just recently watched it. I was gonna bring it up, but I didn't know if it was like rude. But I actually have considered like not working for a social media company after watching that. So I would love to hear your take on that, because that actually like came up in my head when I was thinking like, oh, I don't know if I'd actually want to work for Snapchat after watching that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of internal discussion. When you work at a big company, there's always internal discussion about it. And the CEO and everyone comes together in HR, you know, like they put out their briefs and whatnot. At Snap, we have a really, I know I'm like buttering up Snap, but we have a really amazing leadership team. And Evan Spiegel, the founder, is kind of just the face of that team, obviously. What's the other co-founder? I'm Corey. I'm like totally blanking on the co-founder's name. He's more of the engineering side, so I focus more on Evan. But he came to the company and like he does a weekly all hands where he talks to the company. It used to be in person, now it's on GVC, and he said, kind of like more of his words, and I'll give you my thoughts on it afterwards. He said, with every new technology, there's always been repercussions. There's always been outcomes, you know, that weren't intended or not, you know, not necessarily for seeing, you know, like there wasn't foresight for them. And that, you know, that just kind of shows like, oh, mistakes were made, or, you know, like we didn't really realize that, you know, there could be inappropriate like things going on our platform, but that's what it's being used for, given how the product works. And, you know, I think like he's made it really clear, like, you know, we're going to keep going and doing what we do. We've reiterated kind of our policies, our privacy policies, and how we, on the business side, how we kind of detect fraudulent or like bad accounts, bad actors in a way, and also on the consumer side. And I think that's a lot of where the investment's going, besides AR and AI, is like privacy and privacy, like technology from like a machine learning perspective. So I don't know much about the details on that, but here's my perspective. I'm someone who definitely wanted to work in tech. I thought Google was not evil when I joined, and then I joined and I was like, oh, once you get to a certain company size, it's gonna, like, there's gonna be evil, like, you know, like there's gonna be bad actors, and no matter where you work, whether it's Disneyland or Google or Amazon or, you know, wherever. And so I would just say, like, don't close off, and don't take this me as like buttering Snap or anything, but don't close your options based on that. But think about what, like, if the role is on, I would say, here's what I'd say in applying: cast a wide net. When you get interest to interview, learn more, because you're also interviewing for the company and you're interviewing for that particular team. On a day-to-day basis, I work with an all-female team. We have a really diverse team, and I'm super proud of that. And I'm like honored, and I just think it's baller, number one. But when I interviewed for the team, I didn't know that going in. And then I kind of figured that out as I saw more and more women. And then I asked them, and they're like, oh yeah, we're all women. I was like, oh, wow. Is that why you guys picked me? No, I'm just kidding. But cast a wide net, like don't close off options. If you're absolutely like anti-Facebook or anti-social, like I get it if you don't want to work there. Like I don't think I would ever work for, well, I can name a few organizations, but cast a wide net. Like don't let things like the social dilemma, and I totally understand where you're coming from with the social dilemma. That was very eye-opening for a lot of people. Cast a wide net, know that you're interviewing for the team and the people there on the team, and like understand that a lot of these companies are, you know, like realizing the mistakes that they made and kind of trying to correct that. So just research that a little bit, because you'll be able to find that in, like, you know, you can look at Bloomberg and search like Google, you know, Google bad practice with, you know, like executives slept with this person and then promoted them, or not, sorry, that's like so crude, but and not just Google, but other companies. You'll be able to find the dirt like on Bloomberg, or like you know, other tech focused like Forbes Business Review and stuff like that. Like and just know, like, I have a friend who recently left Snap to work at Instagram, and she's one of the more, like, one of the most, not most, but she's very politically active. She's very engaged with local communities, and she's just very outspoken about her opinions, which is great. And I think everyone has a right to do that. I asked her, I was like, how do you feel about joining Facebook? You know, and I kind of like gave that like, you know, the Zuck truck or whatever. And I always joke about, or my boyfriend always jokes about Zuckerberg, but her answer was actually like surprisingly like short and positive. She was like, look, like, I know there's like bad history, and Facebook is relatively evil in a way, but I think if I can, she works on content. So she worked on Snapchat, like Discover content, producing some of those shows and whatnot, original Snapchat originals, or there's So Satisfying on Snapchat. Like there's like curated stories. Sorry, my dog. She said that I think I can go there and hopefully influence other, you know, like use my platform to help influence the company in a way. So just know, like, you know, these companies are filled with people make mistakes. I don't want to like make excuses for any major tech company effing up or meddling in the election or this or that, but people make mistakes, and like my whole opinion on like tech and data, I have a relatively like I've always been like a big Google Maps user, and I'm always like, if they want to know my location, fine. Like I'm not committing any crimes. Like hopefully we don't go into a future where Minority Report is a real thing and they're tracking me down. So I've always had like more of a, this makes my life better. This is a technology that improves my happiness. This is a technology that saves me time. I'm going to use it. And I know that they're going to be targeting me in the future. And I know that they're going to gain some of my information, but like there's only so much you can do to kind of save yourself from that. Like we're moving in a world that's all like moving towards digital, like all digital realms. So that's kind of my mentality. But I totally get where you're coming from. Just know, like, you're interviewing with the people and the company and the team that you're joining. You're not interviewing to be a perfect match for the company. And you can always say no at the end of the, you know, when it comes down to it, if you were interviewing there and they're like, hey, we have this great job offer and here's all this money and blah, 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 blah. You can say no. And that's awesome. And that's totally like, you know, like that's commendable if that's the route you want to take. So that's what I would say. I hope that answers.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I honestly like your answer because it seems like there's a positive future within these like social media companies. I just wanted to hear your perspective because I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the question, and I think it's an interesting conversation. I think I'll deal with the conversation my whole career, unless I like retire and just paint for the rest of my life. Somehow get rich. Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, and it's interesting to hold these. It's important to hold these companies accountable. It's important to be aware of all this stuff, and like I said, like Forbes Business Review will always lead you, or Bloomberg or whatever. I've been contact when I worked at Google. I had random reporters messaging me on LinkedIn being like, I heard that there was scandal within Google Cloud and this PMM doing this, and I was like, dude, I don't know that person. So like, there's always scandals. There's always bad things that happen. That's the capitalistic society we live in. Every company is really driven to make money, but yeah, look for the companies that do work in this space and are giving back. Snap gives back to the local Los Angeles communities. Now where we have offices, we try to give back. We have 2 days a year where we dedicate the whole team to working community service projects. We have incredible diversity, inclusion, equity programs. Evan had a really, really amazing, in my opinion, I mean, he's a white dude, but he had a really amazing approach and response to a lot of the turmoil that came from this summer, from the, I guess, spring, summer. And I think like that really reinforced a lot of the people who work at Snap to stay and commit themselves to working at Snap. So just look at like what the leadership team is doing from that perspective as well. Like dig up the dirt from the publications and look at the leadership and know that you're interviewing with the group and not the company.
Any other questions?
They're like, no, if I ask her a question, she's going to talk for 3 minutes.
It's all good. So I've been finishing up with one question, and then I'm going to also after that give you 5 words, and you just give me the top thing off your top of your head. Okay.
5 words off the top of my head,
yeah.
Like any word?
No, I will give you the word, and it's a word association. So you just give me an answer as
oh God.
you can. But the last question would be, you were talking about rewards. What was the first thing you kind of rewarded yourself with after you got a job or after graduation?
Oh my gosh. I think about this all the time. I'm like, my next job, I'm going to get myself a Tesla. No, I'm not that. Reward. Recently, when I moved down to Los Angeles, I've always wanted a dog. And I knew this was kind of like the job where I would have like the financial, I've had financial stability. I'm very privileged in that aspect. But I knew this was the job where I was like, right, like I'm going into my 30s in January. And so when COVID happened, I was definitely pressuring my partner, my boyfriend. He was like, I'm going to go adopt a cat because all these cats don't have a place to be. And so he's not a big cat person. And so we adopted a dog. So that was a big reward. Definitely reward yourself. Like, know that, you know, don't spend money on, you don't need anything else from Amazon, to talk shit on tech companies, but you don't need anything else from Amazon. Think about, like, I still think about a pair of Gucci loafers that I one day want to buy. I probably will whenever I get a bonus, but that seems like an insane amount of money. You know, $1,000 for a pair of shoes seems like an insane amount of money. So I think the puppy was my reward.
Cool. All right, you ready for the words?
Yeah.
All right. So first word is red.
Passion.
Okay. Next word, apple.
Juice.
Tree.
Sky.
Ball.
Dog.
Sun.
Warmth.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I feel like I could have come up with better words, but
Oh, it's all right. It's just kind of a good
like
way to end everything and kind of get it all out there. So
totally.
I really appreciate you talking with us and your insight and knowledge that you can share. And I think that's this has been one of the best things about COVID is I've been able to bring you all back, at least for a little bit, to say hi and share your knowledge.
Technology still exists even when it's not COVID, but
I will continue this, that's for sure. So.
Yeah, it was a pleasure speaking with you all, or speaking to you guys, and best of luck, for real. You're kind of facing a crazy world, but it's not that bad. I have faith. If this guy's your professor, I have faith you're all positioned well to go into the real world, whatever that is.
The real world, or the AR world, right?
The AR world, the digital realm.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Jessie.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks. Good luck. How do I leave this?
All right. Anybody? Thoughts? I'm going to stop recording.